They hate anyone that would tell them the truth, and they love lies. Love it. That's yet another reason my country is falling apart because they hate you if you tell the truth, and they love you if you lie. This is from Breitbart. Turning Point USA posted footage of Pete Buttigieg visit to East Palestine. Buttigieg refused to explain. You know, it took him a long time to go there, right? And people want to know, where you been, man? Where have you been, Pete? This is from Turning Point. Watch this.
The American public doesn't seem to be very confident in your ability to do your job. Will you be resigning anytime soon?
I'm not here for politics. I'm here to make sure the community can get what they need.
Will you apologize?
I want to be
will you
speaking to
apologize for the
leaders,
response? For the slow response, taking your time?
One of the big.
Hey, why did it take you an entire 2.5 weeks to actually get here? Ask why it took him almost 3 weeks to get here?
I'm sorry, I don't want to do this on camera.
What was?
They don't have to answer anymore because you go to vote for them anyway. So they don't have to ask, or answer questions. Have you noticed that? If that was Donald Trump or anyone that worked for Donald Trump acting that way, not responding to the questions concerning the citizens, it would be a mess. And I want to show you how stupid the talk show hosts on The View are. It is insane. And this is what happens when men don't take control of their lives so they can guide the women in the right way to go. They go evil. Joy Behar on the Joy Behar on the Ohio train derailment blamed Trump and his voters. This is from ABC. Watch this.
The Republicans are obsessed with this notion of the free market, and they don't like a lot of regulations. We have to pay for regulations and safety standards. Otherwise, where are we? We're all going to go up in flames.
This is Trump country. He won by 40 points. He is a president for all Americans. I believe that, but he needs to show that he is.
That's who you voted for in that district. Donald Trump, who reduces all safety.
I think this is Donald Trump's fault.
They think it's see how dumb women are? And not all, but most. And those women who have overcome, you're not dumb, but if you have not returned to your father, you're dumb. If you're not forgiving your mothers and grandmothers for what they've done to you, recreating you in their image, you're evil like that. Joy Behar look evil. And those women, and all of them blaming Trump. What the? He's not even the president, and yet he's getting blamed. Talk about diversity and equity and inclusion. What a mess. What a sad world this is. The world is evil, and it's not the physical world that's evil, it's the people of the world. I remember when America was a beautiful place to live. Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. It was nothing like it is now. Nothing. Zero. I want to encourage you to wake up. It's up to you, but you want that higher insight of living and not the lower one. If you want to have peace on earth, you just don't want to be happy. Happiness is not of God. Happiness is a come and go moment because it's of darkness and it's not of the light. Christ came to bring peace. He didn't come to bring happiness. Happiness is of your father, the devil. Sadness and fear and worry and anxiety, overreaction, revenge, jealousy and envy and strife is of your father, the devil. Fear. And everybody at the moment have fear because they have anger, and because anger is evil and anger is wicked. and in wickedness there is no peace. Christ came that you might have peace. And it's hard to find people who have peace. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. And I understand why. I really do understand why. I understand it. All right? So you got to, in order to find what you're looking for, you got to pull away and become your own person, be an individual, and just observe what's happening on the inside of you. And being an individual does not mean that sometimes you hang out with folks or you on the phone once in a blue moon, but you keep your eyes on you at all times. It will be amazing. All right. I saw Joe Biden. Joe Biden is over in Portland somewhere. Poland.
Oh yeah, he was in Poland. Yesterday for sure.
Bucharest.
He's not in Nicaragua, right? He's in Poland.
Where? He went to Kiev, Ukraine, and then he went to
like
Poland.
I
I
think you
think
can say that on YouTube.
Nicaragua.
I'm joking. That's
Nicaragua.
Isn't that a place called Nicaragua?
It's not in Europe.
Oh, okay.
Not
He's
anywhere
somewhere.
close.
But today I saw him. He's turning black because he's getting old. His skin turning black. I think.
Sleepy Joe's?
I could be wrong because I saw he had a little black scar right here.
Oh no, that's Ash Wednesday.
I'm like, that man turning black in Poland.
Today is Ash Wednesday.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
It's what?
Ash Wednesday. It's the first day of Lent if you're Catholic, and Sleepy Joe's supposedly Catholic.
Ashy Wednesday?
Ash.
I'll be
Not
ashy.
ashy.
Black skin ashy every day.
Ashy
That's
means
a good
white if
Christian.
you're black.
Not just on
But-
Wednesday.
But ash means
Every
black
day.
if you're white.
What?
Ash is black if you're white, but ash is white if you're black.
What?
Ashy skin is like kind of white and flaky. I've learned since over my years of being on the JLP
Yeah,
Peterson
ashy
show.
skin is all white. If
I
didn't
never
put
heard of
lotion on
ashy before.
If
I
I
guess I
didn't
didn't
put
know
lotion
black
on my arms and hands, I'd be so white, ashy.
Right.
And that's what Joe Biden turned it into?
No, when the Pope does this,
Oh.
You know what I'm
or
saying?
whatever priest does
Come on,
makes a
man.
little cross.
Oh.
You're so ignorant.
So,
See, you're ashy
So-
every day. You don't
so
forget
white
about.
people have to make themselves ashy. Black people are naturally ashy.
Right.
See, we're the first on the earth.
They
No, if our
choose
skin
one
is-
day
if our
to
skin is
remember
dry, it
God.
doesn't
You remember him
change
all the
color.
time.
I remember all the time. I'm ashy every day.
Sorry. I
So
cut you.
it's Ash Wednesday, you say?
You can't just say president good bad. It's like, what did they do that was good? What did they do that was bad? Can you guys think of anything Obama did that was good?
If you give me an hour, maybe.
I can't. He's the president of the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, right? So it's more international trade. These are laws that get enacted on the American people without proper legislation because, we have to abide by the treaty. That means this country has to do these things. Like, we're forced to go to war because of NATO. The American people, the Congress can only declare war, but because of NATO. So that's what they tried doing. Obama had the NDAA, indefinite detention provision.
Yeah.
They could rendition you into a black site outside of the country indefinitely. They signed that. This dude had a whole bunch big banker bailouts. Occupy Wall Street was protesting him. So I look at Donald Trump and I'm like, fine. How about we say this? Trump's a -12. Obama was a -56.
Right.
George W. Bush was a -84. Clinton was a -80. It's like, so Trump he's bad, but he's like the least bad and closest we got to good.
I totally agree.
But then I look at foreign policy and I'm like, he's actually the best.
Yes.
Yes.
Hands down. And didn't
Ron
Trump,
Paul would have been better.
Yes.
Of course.
Didn't Trump get us out of the Paris Accord and the Iran deal? Like, didn't
Yes.
Trump get us out of both those? That's great.
I think Biden brought us right back, though.
Oh, yeah, he brought us right back. Yeah.
I thought getting out of the
throwing
Iran
money
deal
at
was good. Why was that good? Am I the only one that was
I
a
don't know.
fan of
What
that?
is it? What is the
us
Iran
why-
deal?
The Iran nuclear deal.
The Iran
Explain.
nuclear deal was they had basically agreed to have their nuclear facilities inspected, and I thought that was a great thing. Why do we want to have a catalyst for war with them?
I think the inspection in the treaty is potentially a catalyst for war with them.
Well, I think that if you're inspecting it, then you know that they're not creating nuclear weapons. There's no, imperative to strike. So
who enacted? Who was the president? Which administration brought about the Iran nuclear deal?
I thought it was Obama.
Was it Obama?
Yeah.
I thought so.
And which administration produced Stuxnet to blow up Iranian centrifuges?
Probably Obama.
I think it was Obama too. So look, I got to be honest. I probably don't know enough about the specifics in the deal other than
Sure.
I'm typically anti-interventionist. And if they don't give me a good reason why they're engaging in these kinds of policies.
Sure.
So I can only say this, fair point. I don't know enough about it, but I'm certainly not going to trust Obama, who enacts a treaty and then blows them up.
I agree, man. And you shouldn't trust them. And that's why you can't give them, any of these guys, a ton of credit for anything that they do. But I'll grant you, yes, Trump is probably the best president of my lifetime. We still had 2020, which was maybe the worst year of my lifetime.
Yeah, but it's the governors who did it. You can blame Trump for a lot. I mean, she got rid of Burke, she got rid of Fauci. He shouldn't have promoted lockdowns in the first place. That gave the launching point to these governors. And he probably could have used some emergency powers to stop some of it. But it was ultimately the governors. And Donald Trump took a constitutional approach where he was like, look, 10th Amendment, the governor's going to do it. The states have the right to do their thing and legislate the way they want.
The reason the libertarians are so hard on Trump for that period is because of our understanding of Austrian economics and the trillions that he allowed to be created into thin air, that we're now suffering the inflationary process to this day. And yes, it's not entirely his fault. And yes, he wasn't responsible for all of it. But if he's going to go up there and say that I'm here to drain the swamp, I am going to point to you and let you know that the media is full of crap, and I'm going to be the one guy that tells you the truth, and then you allow the biggest liars on earth like Anthony Fauci to go up there and just lie to us for a year straight, and you don't fire him when you have a chance. Sorry, there's just a disconnect there that I can't wrap my head around.
Yeah, it's bad, sure. But I'm just saying, I'm just kind of over it because
everything else is terrible.
Because everything else was 100-fold worse, and Trump did a bunch of really good things.
Yeah.
And I look at what's going on now in East Palestine, and I'm just like, now I just like the guy. Mm-hmm. Like, I saw the video of him at McDonald's talking about him knowing the menu better, and I'm like, I just like this guy so much better than these other pieces of trash. But let me pull up this story. We got this from Timcast.com. I'm not here for politics. Buttigieg press secretary dodges reporters' questions in East Palestine, Ohio. The people here have been quite tight-knit about when we can ask questions. I also want to shout out this really cool image that I'm pretty sure was like AI generated of a reporter chasing Buttigieg, who for some reason is on vacation. But I like the picture. Anyway, Turning Point reporter Kaylin D. Almeida confronted Buttigieg during his Thursday visit to the Ohio community regarding his response to the disaster earlier this month. The American people doesn't seem to be very confident in your ability to do your job. Will you be resigning anytime soon? I'm not here for politics, he said. I'm here to make sure the community can get what they need. Now, I'll say this. Savannah Hernandez also confronted Buttigieg. Her question was hitting the nail on the head with the hammer. She said, why did it take 3 weeks for you to get here? Why did you only come after Trump already came? And will you apologize to the people who live here? Those are three questions that everyone's been asking, everyone's been talking about, and even the people who live there have been saying, where's the Biden administration? Where's Buttigieg? This is something he can literally answer. Why weren't you here? Just a simple question. I think that was fantastic. A fantastic question. The are you going to quit question is kind of like, okay, he can't answer that. And that's the one he actually sticks around for. With Savannah, he just runs away. Take a look at this.
Mayor Pete, why did it take you an entire 2.5 weeks to actually get here to respond to East Palestine? Will you apologize to the residents of this city for the slow?
And then here's the best part.
If you're the press secretary of the Department of Transportation, don't you think you should be able to ask questions from the American public that you serve?
Absolutely. I would like to do it without the camera on.
What a smarmy piece of garbage. Turn the camera off so I can say nasty things to you. So we over and over and over again. This is what we're getting from the Biden administration. Dude, just own it. Have some humility and try and win back some support. Buttigieg should have he can just say, we probably should have got here sooner. We tried as hard as we could. I think I'll have to apologize for not being here as soon as I can. I know, but trust me, I'm here for you now. Just say something like that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new president. It's Obama. or it might be Kamala. So Joe Biden himself has repeatedly said Kamala's the president. And now Karine Jean-Pierre says Obama's the president. You ready for this one?
Okay, so today, as you all saw just an hour or so ago, President Obama announced that, President Biden. Whoa! That is news.
Okay, wait, one more time.
So today, as you all saw just an hour or so ago, President Obama announced that, President.
She is so bad at her job, she read from the paper she's looking at and said the wrong president's name. Or, I'm assuming, when she's reading, she read President Obama.
That's
Yeah.
full on
Maybe.
zealotry, man. Because that guy hasn't been president for a long time.
But is she reading? Look, she's
reading.
She's
Like,
reading
hold on, play it
as
again.
she's that's the
Okay,
point.
so
Watch your
today,
eyes.
as you all saw just an hour or so ago, President Obama announced that.
Yeah, she's reading off a
Pardon me,
paper. She read that. Her eyes were down as she was reading that.
She's reading from a paper.
checked out?
Wow.
I think she's checked out.
Yeah.
She's checked out.
I do. I honestly like. She has
They're
to
all
know.
checked out.
Yes, exactly.
Buttigieg is checked out.
Yeah. If
Man, I feel bad for Buttigieg, because
no, don't.
No, I feel bad for him because he's just trying to, he's trying to chill, right? He doesn't want to be transportation
That's
secretary.
true.
And the government knocks on his door and they're like, Pete Buttigieg? He's like, yeah. And he's like washing a pan and they're like, we need you for transportation secretary. And he's like, what? He's like, your country needs you. And they put him on the helicopter and fly him to D.C. And then he's like, I'm not doing the job. And they're like, well, you are. And then he's just trying as hard as he can not to do it, but they won't fire him.
That's true. He's just like, look, man.
It's like Office
Can
Space.
you fire me, man?
That's actually a really great meme. Can we do that? Pete Buttigieg as the main dude in Office Space.
Yes.
And then you get like Trump.
I've got like 7 bosses.
Yeah.
Is it legal?
So what would you say you do here? Well, I go on vacation and paternity leave, ignore natural and man-made disasters, and space out for about an hour when I am there.
If there was like a war and then bombs were blowing up roads, would Buttigieg be in charge of overseeing the reconstruction of the roads, the transportation
Yes.
sector? Is that all deferred to the military?
Honestly, I don't think he does anything,
Yes,
but
he'd have some authority there for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's national. I look at it as national security. If
I
you let
think
the people of your country starve, die off from chemicals, that's a loss of security in the nation.
If the U.S. was being bombed, I think we'd be under martial law instantly, and the military would take over infrastructure projects.
That's
and
true,
You
yeah.
wouldn't have a
Yeah.
civilian doing it.
That's true.
They might communicate with him in some degree and have him do something. They would just
like
tell you
Biden
to do
might
your
give
job.
him a battlefield promotion and make him lieutenant colonel.
There'd be
Buttigieg.
some photo ops for sure, like have him standing there
Is he military?
helping someone.
Is
He,
Buttigieg military?
he
Yes, he
was.
was.
Yeah, he's Air Force.
I got to be honest, though. I kind of feel like if the roads were to be bombed in like a figurative sense, destroyed, it would be because of the Biden administration, not in spite of. It's their policies that are going to result in this. So they blame Donald Trump for the derailment, but Biden has been president for 2 years. It's like
And they passed
he
a whole
doesn't exist.
infrastructure bill with $1.2 billion for the rails. And then what did they do with it?
Do you guys think that Obama's secretly pulling the strings?
I don't know.
He must be around.
Doesn't he live?
I think there's
right
a
next to the White
panel.
House?
I think he's on a panel that I think there's a bunch of people that are pulling the strings. They wrote about it in Time magazine, the cabal of elites or whatever they called it.
He was fortification of elections.
Yes, I think he's on.
He bought a house near the White House.
He was caught on mic saying, the only thing I would like better than a third term is to not be president again and be able to basically control this whole operation from my basement. I think he's doing it. That's my honest opinion.
It'd be funny if he's like literally in his basement with like a beard growing, and he's like just dirty and disheveled, and he's like rocking back and forth watching the news, and then he like takes the phone and he calls Biden, and he's like, "Joe, what's up with this smoke in Ohio?" And Joe's like, "I don't know, man. And
I think he's got an IFB straight into Biden's ear, but Biden's hard of hearing, so he's like, he just keeps saying the wrong lines, even though Obama's like, look, I am one of the most gifted orators of our time, and I'm talking directly into this dude's ear, and he still can't get it right. I feel for Obama, ultimately.
I think that Obama is involved in this now. I haven't thought that much because I haven't heard of him much, but for her to say his name like that must indicate
That was so
she's
natural.
He's around.
Yeah.
it'd be kind of cool actually if like there's a house a block away from the White House with a secret sub basement. And, you go in this regular house and everything looks normal, and you go downstairs and everything looks normal, and then you lift up like a chest, and underneath it is stairs that goes down into like this dark cobblestone brick castle wall, and Hillary Clinton and Obama are wearing dark cloaks, and they're like looking over this computer screen, and they're like, "Ooh," and they're feeding information to Joe Biden and telling him what to do. I think that'd be really cool.
Sounds like a political cartoon that I'd like to write.
It's not impossible.
I know.
I believe anything at this
It would be better if like Obama is in some kind of pod with a Neuralink plugged in. And then like he's got a heads up display and he's controlling Biden. And that's why Biden's like all messy, because like when the connectivity goes out, he slurs. That explains everything.
It could be that the people like Karine have no faith in Biden, like zero. Probably a lot of people in that administration have very little to no faith in the guy. And so Obama's keeping their morale up. He's like, I got your back. If something happens to him, I will be here to lead this country kind of thing.
Well, that's how degraded our political class is, that like even though everyone there has clearly given up, like it's so crystal clear that they've all given up on their jobs. They're just like, we know that the whole country's falling apart, but we've been told by the business class that we're going to be taken care of because we're just going to continue to do our jobs. And then that revolving door into K Street, we're going to get our payday at the end of it. I know that's a really jaded way of looking at it, but like, tell me when you watch Karine Jean-Pierre speak that you don't just sense like she is counting the days until she gets to quit this job. Counting the days.
It's almost like they almost dog whistle such dangerous stuff. It's stuff I left Massachusetts and went to Florida to get my children away from it. And it's not something like, when people would ask, why are you moving to Florida, from Massachusetts? And I'd be like, oh, I like the sun, but in reality, it's.
You're all creepy cultists. Stay away from my children, you freak.
Yeah, I had to save one of my children from them. And that's why I moved.
Can you go into detail on that?
Yeah, please.
I'll go into detail on that. So a few things were happening. I can go into detail on this whole thing. 2020 happens and the lockdowns happen. And I have a daughter who is, and this whole story is going to be about that daughter, okay? She's incredible. She's 14 now, but this was started when she was 10. So 2020 happens, lockdowns happen, and my daughter has this condition. It's 1 in a million. It's called chronic recurrent multifocal osteomyelitis, right? And so she has to go to Boston hospitals, be treated for that, right? And so they're trying, at this point, fast forward like 2 years, 1 year ago, whenever, they were trying to get this vaccine into kids. And they're trying to get this into my kid who has this rare 1 in a million disease. They call it an orphan disease because nobody studies it. St. Jude studies it and that's about it. So they're trying to get this vaccine into her. And then they're saying, okay, well, in Boston, you can't go into a restaurant. You can't go to a sports coliseum unless you're vaccinated if you're over 6. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I can't bring my daughter to get her treatments and then take her out for lunch because she's not vaccinated because I didn't put this experimental drug or whatever into my young child. So that's one portion of why I had to get out of there. But other than that, I had someone adult in her life wrote, I'm not going to go too specific. So an adult in her life wrote me an email referring to my daughter as a they, them. My daughter is a tomboy, or she was at the time up in Massachusetts. She was a tomboy. And so they wrote me this email referring to her as a they, them. And I read the email twice because I'm thinking, are they referring to a group of people? I couldn't understand why my child was being referred to as a they, them. And then it hit me what was going on. And I asked, like, did my daughter tell you to call her that? They go, no, I didn't want to assume. I didn't want to assume. They didn't want to assume that she was a girl because she was a tomboy. And then on top of that, because she's a tomboy, she had people around her trying to tell her she was gay. So she came out to me as a lesbian at 9. And I was like, do you like girls? And she goes, no. And I'm like, then you're not a lesbian. Like, you need to like girls. She goes, oh. So they're telling her what she is. So those are the three reasons. I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, my whole family, my whole life, I spent my entire life in the same town. And I was raising my children in the same town. It was the town I grew up in, and I loved it there, but I had to get as far away as I could. So I took my family and I moved and went to Florida. And 3 months into living in Florida, my daughter is wearing pink and she has a boyfriend and she's a totally well-adjusted child. And she goes and she gets her nails done with me. And, she's very girly. And she had told me, she goes, I felt trapped and I feel like I can be myself now that we're in Florida. She's like, I felt like I had to be somebody that I wasn't when I was in, she would have naturally outgrown this tomboy thing, but it was instead being forced on her, like tomboy was a gender and that was who she was going to have to be. And so it was really difficult to make that decision. I left everything I knew, everyone I knew. I didn't have a job. Now I do. But I just left because that was the most important thing in my world was my children and saving them. And I saw people, predators coming for my children. And I had to get out of there. And so that's what we did. We left.
Great job, Mom.
Are you homeschooling at the moment?
I have my children in actually a great school that I very well vetted. My children are in excellent schools. And one of them is gifted. I found out gifted 130 IQ. And another one got her letter saying we'd like to test this one for gifted too. So I have these gifted children, and up in Massachusetts, where I was, they didn't have opportunities like that, and I would have. I knew they were brilliant, like just because I'm their mom, and obviously I'm a little partial, but
I think we need to acknowledge that the phrase "gifted" is very problematic because it implies that children who are a bit slower are somehow not being given opportunity. So
it was a trickle down. It was CRT. It was the things that were happening in that district, in those schools up in Massachusetts. It all was. Everybody had to be the lowest common denominator.
Right.
So I had a smart child, and my one that's being gifted tested now, she would be tutoring other kids instead of having advanced work. So you see how they would kind of have her helping, which she loved to do. She'd do it, but I'm just like, can you give her extra work? Can you test her? Like, is there anything more that you can do to encourage her to be smart instead of making her do your job? I mean, that's fair, right? But so that's something like as a mother that was super important to me. And it's something I know I have people reach out to me a lot on my Twitter page or whatever. And they're like, I can't believe that you did that. Like, I want to do that. I don't know how. I'm like, you don't have a plan. You just do it.
Exactly.
You just got to do it. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have anything. And then Tim reached out and hired me. And that was just like, it changed my life because I didn't.
Oh, there you go. Did you talk to the kids before you moved to get their opinions on everything?
Yeah, they weren't thrilled about it because we were leaving their grandparents, their great grandparents, all their cousins, all their friends. Like, I don't know anybody in Florida. I moved
all
to a
they had
place,
ever known. Yeah.
Everything they've known, everything I'd known. I don't know anybody in Florida.
It's so easy to do. All you got to do is get hired by Tim Pool and then move to Florida.
Yes.
And problems are solved. Just
Tim,
like
I hope you're looking to hire a couple million people.
It happened the other way. I moved to Florida and then I got hired by Tim. I was literally like thinking I was going to go back to waitressing. Like I dropped everything. I was going to drop down and just do whatever I could to support my children, move to this place where they were safe and do whatever I could to support them. So that's what I did. I was ready to go be a bartender again or be a waitress or something.
Sometimes that's what's necessary, though. Talk about.
You work for a company, and one day the boss says, hey, there's some controversy related to wokeness. Then the other partner at the business says, well, if we side with conservatives, then the left will destroy our building and maybe kill some of our family members. If we side with the left, the conservatives will complain on the internet. Mm-hmm. Let's side with the left on this one. That's the safe bet. That is pushing politics in one direction.
Well, that paired with ESG, and you have just a linear march towards the left.
The thing is, I can't stop people from being cowards, and I'm not going to become a villain to scare them into following me.
Scare who? What are you talking about?
These corporations that are like, well, the right doesn't do anything. They just complain. I'm not going to create I'm not going to threaten their lives.
Who said we should do that? We said we should be a bit mean to bad people.
You're saying that these cowards in corporations that are afraid of the left but they're not afraid of the right. So that's the problem, is that's why they're siding with the left.
And
I'm
so
not going to
that's why
become
the
something
premise
that
of the
they
conversation
fear.
was we should be a bit meaner to bad people.
Yeah.
I did not say anyone should go and throw Molotovs or anything like that. I said we shouldn't do that. Antifa is bad for doing that. And that actually erodes their support. However, it is an uphill battle, but we do need to tell the likes of Disney they're scumbags when they do the Pride family racist trash. Right. And we need to then, when we see these people at conventions, be like, you are human garbage, and then not associate with them and have them be like, why is this guy mad at me? Because you are promoting racism in our country, and I will not be nice to you because you're a bad person.
But not being nice is different than telling someone they're human garbage. Do not go to events and tell people that they're garbage. That's going to cause mass chaos. Do not do that.
I think the point is that there has to be consequences to the actions. Right, and that's two sayings. There has to be a consequence. Like they say, they don't want to provoke the left because they'll blow your building up. But in this case, you have to. In that situation, when you see someone doing this, you have to give them you have to push back. If you don't push back, they're never going to see any.
Then what you say to them when you see the Disney executive is you say, I believe your cowardice and callow behavior warrants severance from my contracts and my business. Yeah. I will make sure that everyone I know will avoid your products and your bottom line will be eviscerated by my PR campaign. Whatever it would cost you in marketing, I will cost you 100-fold in PR damage. You say something like that.
I think economic is the way to threat. If you're going to threaten corporations, it's economically, because that's what they're afraid of. When you say the left's going to burn their building down, they're afraid of the economic loss.
It's not that.
They don't care about the building itself.
You generally misunderstand.
You're saying
I think we need to take a lesson from the communists on this, okay?
Ian, you can't see Like, you need to understand the analog and not the digital. You hyper focus on one specific thing and you misunderstand the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is when you have a community meeting and the guy shows up who's been dumping feces in the river, you don't go, well, hold on, don't be mean to him, guys. We need to understand why he's polluting our water supply. You say, you out, gone. You're not welcome here anymore. We're cutting you off. And you know what? We're turning the power off to your building because you're using that power to dump feces in the river. We need to just say, ostracize bad people. They are not part of what we are doing. They are destroying it. A guy shows up and he's flinging feces at your children and you go, well, don't be mean to him. Right. No, you can be mean to him.
That's a death sentence. If someone is attempting to kill your kids by poisoning them with feces, that's a death sentence.
So what would you call it when they're trying to kidnap kids and sterilize them?
I mean...
Well, that we tolerate. We got to be nice to these
kids
people.
Is a
Matt
felony.
Walsh is right.
If they're kidnapping children, it's a felony. I don't know what to tell you. That whether they sterilize their kids
when they have adult performers perform for children in Texas and the cops say, don't look at me, I'm not going to do anything about it. And you're saying, well, don't be mean to these people. Nah, Matt Walsh is right.
No, I said, don't be cruel. You should be mean to those people.
What?
You should embarrass and humiliate them, but not be cruel.
How is that not cruel?
Well, I mean, sometimes the nicest thing you can do for someone is to humiliate them.
Perhaps. Fine. Whatever. My point is, the people who are committing clear crimes and the cowardice in the police who refuse to do anything, those cops should be shamed. That's why I've been very much like, fine, whatever, abolish the police. Because these cops I watch in Texas, they're like, well, we know there are adult performers in that building with children, and we're not doing anything about it. It's like, what, dude? It's already illegal.
I love Ian's perspective because it's clear that he's leaning in towards his better nature. I have attempted to do that my entire life, for the record, Ian. I am now in Tim and Matt Walsh's camp entirely. I think that you have to, you can't just put your foot in the ground and draw a line. You actually have to go on the offensive, and I don't mean violently or anything like that ever. I mean, you have to be on the offensive in terms of changing the culture, letting them know there is a line that you cannot cross. You have crossed it, so now I have to push you back, and metaphorically, past that line, because you're too far. You've gone too far already.
And do what the left does. When they show up to your coffee shop, you say, I'm sorry, you can leave. They do it to cops all day, every day. No, you can't come in here. We're not going to serve you. And we're all like, oh, well, we wouldn't do that. Well, you know what? Maybe the parallel economy is the way it's got to go, because they're weaponizing this against you while you try and be tolerant and play nice.
Exactly.
So if they show up to your gas station, to your oil change shop or whatever, auto shop, you say, what did you need? You needed your brakes? Not for you. Nope, you can leave.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
And I think if you do that, it's sad, but if you do that and people start to realize the trajectory that we're on, maybe then they will realize, look, there is actually a price to be paid for dividing this country based on ideological lines. And if they don't want to go down that path, they also have a choice to make. Can we leave the kids alone or not? Because if they do, I think you'll see a return to the much more, Christian conservative type mantra. But at this point, they've gotten so deranged that you're going to force what are normally very calm people into taking a much more vitriolic perspective and stance.